In this video, we're going to talk about how to get a domain name for either free or for cheap. And by the end of this video, you can have your own domain name if you don't already have one. It's an easy process. Whether you're going to start a website or even if you have no plans of actually designing a website, it is great to just have a domain name just to keep a lock on it. Now, domain names, of course, are limited. There are only so many names out there, so many good names at least. So you often want the one with your name on it, quite literally sometimes with your name on it, or your brand name or anything else. So in this video, I'm going to run you through the process of getting a domain name, but I'm also going to talk about some of the things you need to take into consideration when you're getting a domain name. So here I have a list of internet top-level domains. So a top-level domain, or a TLD, you know what they are. It's like a .com, a .org, .net. Those are all top-level domains. Now, there are more and more top-level domains coming out every couple of years, but you know, still the core ones. You always want the .com, you always want a .org, something like that. As you may know, I have a .xyz, which is very nice. If you're like me and you have a common name sometime, you can rarely find .coms with your name, but I got a .xyz. Looks very nice if you ask me. There are some TLDs that will be country specific or industry specific, or might have specific requirements, but in general, we can just go to a domain registrar and get one of these, again, either for free or for cheap. Now, in this video, I'm actually going to show you two examples of this. One is I'm going to show you how to get a domain on Namecheap. Now, Namecheap, I don't give particular endorsement to Namecheap. I only mention it because I happen to use them myself. So I'll run you through the process of getting one from Namecheap. Now, Namecheap, as many like most registrars, is one where you have to pay a fee for the domain, or it's really not actually company specific. It's actually top-level domain specific generally. So I'll run you through that process. And also there's another site which some of you may know of called .tk, or .tk if you want to think of it that way. And here you can actually register free domains. So I'm going to do both of these in this video. Now, a couple concerns. Now, I'm using these two sites as an example. Again, I give no specific endorsement to Namecheap. I will provide you a list of registrars in either the video description or the comments section, which will be more complete. But again, take a look at those. Now, when it comes to registering a domain at a site like Namecheap, buying a .com, buying a .net, something like that, usually the prices are going to be between maybe $10 and $15 or something like that, usually around $12. So I'm going to go ahead and get a domain name here. I'm going to say Uniboomer. Let's see what they have with Uniboomer. That is a weird title, so I guess there aren't many. Oh yeah, so there aren't many of these taken, so I can get the .com. I'll probably get the .com here. And I might also, just because I have an XYZ, I might actually get an XYZ as well. So you can see the prices here. And these are pretty typical. Now, for certain top-level domains, they might be a little bit more. So this AI, the AI top-level domain, it looks like they just charge a whole lot more. That's fine. Or, if you have I know .xxx, which I think is supposed to be just for porn. If you want one of those top-level domains, you have to pay like $100 a year. But these .coms, .orgs, .xyzs, these are going to be around $10. I am going to put .com, uniboomer.com in my cart here. I'm not going to worry about any of this other stuff. We'll talk about that when I do my video on hosting or something else. We're just doing domains here. So I'm going to get that, and I'm also going to get uniboomer.xyz. So a couple things you need to know about getting domain names. Now, Namecheap and .tk, they both handle this. You don't have to worry about it. But one thing you might not know about different domains is that when you register a domain, your personal information that you give to them when you either pay the fee or whatever, that information is actually public, or at least originally it was public, in what is called the WHOIS database. So if you go to whois.net, if you actually type in, if you type in like google.com or whatever, or any kind of domain name, it will search for that domain and it will give you really all the information about whoever registered it. So it'll give some, if you just register a domain at a random site, it'll show your name, your street address, your phone number, your email, all your personal personal information. That's how it used to be. Nowadays, I only mention this because nowadays there are sometimes you have to look out for it, but sites like Namecheap, most good registrars, they will automatically protect your personal information. I think it will say here, actually let me go ahead and view my cart now that I've put that stuff in here. Once you say you want to register these, you'll see that it automatically adds this WHOIS guard. That will protect your privacy on the WHOIS database. Most registrars will do that nowadays. The same is true in .tk, but there are some that don't. GoDaddy, for example, as far as I know, last time I checked, does not. GoDaddy is generally not a good host, not a good registrar. I know a lot of people use it, but I highly recommend just not using it for this reason and many other reasons. But you definitely want one with a WHOIS guard. That is one thing you want to take into consideration. So I'm going to order these. I might have to skip through a screen if there's some personal information, and I will be back in just 1 second. Okay, so I've finished buying these domains, and I'm going to tell you how to go ahead and point your domain name to a server if you already have one. Now, if you just bought these just to park them, that's fine. You don't really have to do anything else. By default, usually when you register a domain, it will automatically point to some kind of parking page that looks something like this. And so that's more or less, if you type in your domain, that's going to be what you find. But I'm going to go ahead and redirect this so it points to my personal server. And I can set up the website there. We'll talk about doing that in another video. But now in order to do that, we want to use the advanced DNS. Now, DNS, of course, is domain name server, and that's really how domain names are resolved on the internet. And we want to direct that site to our IP address of our server, in our case. Now, before I touch on that, just be clear, you'll see some extra data here when I have to renew the domain name. Now, again, typically every year you're going to be paying around $10, $12 a year if you got a .com, .org, something like that. Usually the same amount you paid. Again, it's not really that much. If you're going to pay a lot of money for a website, it's usually going to be on the hosting side, not the domain name side, but just bear that in mind. I'm going to have mine so it auto-renews, but anyway. So I'm going to go to DNS here, and by default, now here are the settings that basically tell it what to do, tell it how to resolve when you get some kind of requests to uniboomer.xyz. So we're going to this parking page, and as you can see here, we have this CNAME record that is directing us to the parking page. Now, I'm going to replace these two records with a record. I'm going to go to Add New Record, select an A record. The host is going to be at all that stuff, and I'm going to type in the IP address for my personal server, or not just my personal server, my web server. So I'm going to say automatic over here, and I'm going to save the changes there, and I'm going to delete these other two entries. So what this is going to do, once all this is finalized, now sometimes this takes a while to update, but what it's going to do is whenever someone queries this website now, it's going to go to this IP address, which again is my web server, to look for that website. And it's going to do whatever that web server tells it to do. In my case, I think the default is just show my own website, since I haven't set up specific settings for this. I'm also going to add in, just because why not, I think I can put in a CNAME record. I always forget how exactly to do this, but let's say I want www.uniboomer.com to redirect to the same place. That is, by default, www is not dealt with. You have to manually tell it to do something with www. So I'm going to say the host is www, and I'm going to say the target is going to be, uniboomer.xyz. I'm going to say automatic, and I think that's right. Yeah, that should be right. Now, when you want to add a subdomain or something else like that in here, this is usually where you add it, or you adjust different settings here. But yeah, we'll just leave it at that for now. Now, I've already, as I said, it takes a while for these settings to update, to permeate through the internet, but I've already set up uniboomer.com while you weren't watching, so we can at least look at that. So if I go to uniboomer.com, this actually goes to my personal website, because what it's doing, what the DNS is doing, is this is resolving to this IP address, and it's sending it to my web server, and my web server, if it gets a general request, the default is just to show my personal website. So that's what we want. Now, let's talk about getting a free domain with .tk. Now, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to, this site is a little less responsive, so it might be a little slower. Let's say I want another Uniboomer site, so I'm going to check availability of this. And, oh, looks like there are some. So we got uniboomer.tk and uniboomer.ml are both available. So I'm going to get both of these. Why not? I'm just going to get both of them. They're free. You might as well take it. It's taken a while, though. All right, that took a second, but it has them now both selected. So I'm going to check out here. And so, yeah, just in case you don't know, there are a couple of these top-level domains like ML, TK, GA, GQ, whatever other one was on the other page that are, in fact, free. And that's just because their particular policies. I should say, every once in a while, since they're free, a lot of times there are a lot of spam sites that will register these domains. So every once in a while, if you want to have an email address from one of these, sometimes they'll be on block lists. That's one of the downsides to having a sort of rare domain. But aside from that, I mean, that's usually not a problem. I mean, people usually don't have block lists that are that extensive. But anyway, here's our next little menu here. Now, what we can do is we can either use DNS, set DNS settings like we did just a second ago, or just forward this domain to go to a particular place. I think I'll select use DNS here. So I'm going to, oh, and it just gives you the host name and the IP address. The settings look a little different if you change them later on, but I'm going to go ahead and put in my IP address for both of these. Just copy it so I don't have to do it again. Do that. And notice that I also, while I was talking, I selected 12 months for free. They do charge extra if you want it to automatically renew. But yeah, this will be fun. So I'm going to do both of that. And where is the go button? It's behind my head. Okay. All right, so I flipped the video off just for a second because some of my personal information popped up. But I should say you do need to register a little account here. I had done that before I started the video, and then my old address popped up. I don't live there anymore, but you don't need to know where I live. So anyway, after that's done, I have this order confirmation, and I'm hiding a little, I don't know, confirmation number. I don't think it actually matters, but I'm going to go ahead and see. Let's see, what was one of the domains we just got? So if I go to uniboomer.tk, was it? If I go to that, let's see if that's, oh, that's already resolving to my website. So that actually, I don't know, the DNS server actually updated pretty quickly. DNS server, whatever. I guess the S already stands for server. So anyway, this is how to get a domain name. Obviously, I have not made any modification to this website, but if you check out the next video, we're going to talk about once you have done this, once you have a domain name, and once you have it looking at a server, how do you actually set up a website? How do you actually, you know, make something different? I don't want this to be uniboomer.tk. I want a separate website. How do I do that? How do I set that up on my server? But either way, even if you're just getting a domain name, I encourage you to get it as soon as possible, whether it's a free one or a cheap one, just go ahead and do it. And again, I'll put a list of recommended registrars either in the comments or in the video description. But I will see you guys next time. It's actually getting dark out here now. See you next time.